All right. Yeah, we were talking about it a little earlier, but I'm glad the whole thing in Boston is over. But I'm really glad they caught that guy alive because I would like to know what in the hell made that a good idea.
Mm-hmm. But that, of course, assumes that he'll actually be willing to enlighten us.
Granted, but you know what? That's a city that had one of the worst disasters in modern history, and it came through it pretty well.
Yeah.
Those people should be commended because they showed just enough patience. They didn't roll out and start killing Muslims in the streets like some people immediately assumed, and they kept it together until they caught the guy.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole city, frankly, should be proud. Hello and welcome again to another episode with the Rollin' 20s, your comic book podcast. This is the show that has tried fried Pikachu and can tell you, tastes an awful lot like boiled Jigglypuff. I am Jeremy.
This is Steve. Jesse.
Envy.
You can find us on Twitter at rolling_20s. You can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please subscribe to both, as well as several other podcasts that the show does, including Convention Reporting on missionstartpodcast.com. We are using a piece of music. We've gone to Machine Supremacy again. You can find their stuff at machinesupremacy.com. They have most of their discography up for free download, as well as a few albums that you cannot find on the website up for buy. You can also find them on Amazon.com. How is the morning, people?
Not too bad. Yeah, it's kind of amusing you brought that up because I just tried frog legs last night for the first time.
Oh, do they kick?
No.
Oh.
Actually, they were gigantic. I thought I was eating like a rabbit leg or something. It was really a large piece of meat. I don't know where they find these frogs, but...
So you had those huge Texas toads, right?
Yeah, or something. But yeah, actually, I was quite amused, actually, because they really do remind me, texture-wise, of chicken.
Huh.
It's like chicken meat in that kind of a texture. Maybe closer to pork, but the flavor wasn't really that bad either.
Wouldn't it be the ultimate depressing dish if you sat down to a plate of frog's legs and bacon? Because I don't think there's anybody in America who wouldn't sit down, look at that, and go, "Aww."
The other thing, they cooked it. They sautéed it with bananas, pineapple, cherries, and mushrooms.
Sounds like it was cooked by a Hawaiian chef.
But yeah, it was really good. It was very well done.
Cool.
That was one of those dishes I was like, I have no reason to try, but my brother ordered it, and I said, sure, I'll try it. Why not? I wasn't going to order it myself, though. Same thing for escargot, snake, or any of that other kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, if somebody orders it, but I'm never going to order it myself, because who's going to order something and then, turn it away?
Yeah.
So.
Well, how about you, Jesse? You want to tell me a story?
It's too depressing.
Wow, that had to build up to it. V, how about you?
All I can think of to say is apparently you can be bitten by a decapitated snake, according to IO9.
I was about to ask if this is some personal tragedy or something. That's.
I didn't really do anything particularly exciting this week.
Oh, okay. Well, I came out okay. I managed to not only find one of those, unicorn-style collectibles, but I went and reached into eBay deep. I am now the owner of an Adam Hughes, Emma Frost sideshow statue.
Nice.
Been hunting that one for a while, at least for a fair price. $700 is a bit much for that.
Yeah.
And then I reached a little further into eBay because I was getting kind of frustrated because I have half of an original Xbox library I can't play. The backwards compatibility is not there for all games.
Mm-hmm.
I bought an original Xbox with 5 games, 2 controllers, and a DVD input. $45.
Nice.
Yeah. The guys at GameStop told me I got a better than fair price for all that, but as I'm staring at it and hearing all the rumors about non-backwards compatibility in the latest Xbox, I don't know. This thing, it may have bottomed out. It may start shooting up in price here if you can't play your past library anymore.
Yeah. So Xbox isn't the only one, or I should say, PlayStation isn't the only one.
Well, PlayStation's the one that's confirmed. Xbox, that's been a long-standing rumor to the point where people are starting to believe it as fact. So I'm just not taking it for granted. Let me put it that way. I traded in my original Xbox to get my first 360. At this point, even if I stop playing them, I don't think I can trade them in if they're not backwards compatible. I should just seal them up and put them away. But that's my thought process behind it anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Hard to tell.
Yeah, it's getting worse out there. But we're going to do more pop culture profiling today. We agreed last week that we're going to do several X-Men and Avengers. Before we get into that, there was actually a large amount of news that came out this week, surprisingly. Brian Michael Bendis is tweeting more photos from the production of X-Men Days of Futures Past. He tweeted a picture of Patrick Stewart in some kind of, at least from the shoulders up, doing test shots in what looks to be some kind of funky uniform-style jacket. Still not sure if this means he's going to be walking or not. You know how comic books and Professor Xavier is. It seems like every other week. I can't walk, I can't walk. I can't walk, I can't walk. It's like somebody keeps switching his shoes, I guess. So I'll be sure to add that to the webmaster to put up on the website. Are you guys familiar with the game producer Atlas? They've done several high-profile games. The most recent ones I could think of would be the Disgaea series.
Oh, okay.
I think they were also responsible for the Alundra, but I would have to back up and check on that. They were bought out by another company called the Index Corporation about a year ago because Atlas was pretty much running out of money. They weren't producing a lot of quality games to offset the bad ones they put out. And they're back in trouble because the Index Corporation, as it turns out, is pretty much insolvent at this point. At the last quarter financial statement, they produced a loss of 1.6 billion yen, approximately 20... Yeah. I want to say it's about 20 million, 25 million. So it's been rough for this company, and it looks very likely that it's going to disappear in the near future, or at least be just turn into another gaming name like LucasArts was last week. And this company could actually cause a few hiccups because it actually owns pieces of a lot of different companies, including 5% stock in Takara Tomy, and I think about 10% of Madhouse. Madhouse is an animation studio. They're the ones who put out the recent Transformers animated, the X-Men anime. I think they did the Iron Man too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this could actually cause more than a few hiccups, but by comparison, their stock currently makes Square Enix look like gold.
I looked it up. Matrix Software is the developer, and SCEI Working Designs in North America, and Psygnosis in Europe. So,
okay.
None of them are Atlas.
All right. Game Informer's come out with more information on Arkham Origins. It is going to take place in Gotham City for the first time. It's supposed to take place in one night during Christmas Eve. They are not going back to the Joker. It looks like they're trying to take a step away from that. At least this new take of it is. All right. The big bad. Last week we discussed it was Deathstroke. No, apparently he's the chief field officer. The big bad in this is actually a classic Batman villain called the Black Mask.
Ooh.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
He's the guy that got all the gangs under one banner.
Yeah, he's pretty much a high-level gang leader. He's got this weird thing where he made a funeral mask for himself. No, I'm sorry. He took wood from his father's coffin, black wood, and fashioned the skull mask out of it, and due to a burning accident, it's fused to his head. So he was this weird, sadistic mob leader with a short temper who ended up unifying most crime syndicates under his banner for a while. So just kind of a high-level sociopath, about as anti-Batman as you could get.
One of his highlights was supposedly killing Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. So he's never been a huge deal, but who knows? Sometimes the right exposure can lead you to something huge. I mean, Wolverine wasn't big until he became an X-Man.
True.
The reviews are out on the Injustice game, Gods Among Us, and I was wrong, and you were right, Jesse. There is no PC version to this.
Really?
Yeah, but the reviews on most websites of this are pretty darn positive. I said last week, dial-a-combo games and Mortal Kombat style games are not for me. But apparently, if you're a DC fanboy, this is pretty good. The only serious complaint I've heard so far is that this is using one of the Mortal Kombat engines.
Yep.
And there are some times where the facial textures just don't match the, the cartoonishness of some of the characters. Game trailers said it best when they did a zoom in of Wonder Woman's face, and she looks like a dude.
I don't know. I wasn't too keen on, especially with some. Yet, my thing that I'm going to pick on is Superman versus Green Lantern. Not Green Lantern. Green Arrow. There we go. and Superman's ultimate move is to send someone into the atmosphere and send them back.
If I remember correctly, midi-chlorians. I don't know.
I don't know. I wanted this game to be good, but I can't get past that.
I don't know. For some reason, I laughed at Solomon Grundy's because his finisher looks intimidating, where he's punching someone straight through the earth out of China and back up again. But there's something about that when I stare at it. I hear the Dig Dug music going on in the back of my mind.
Honestly, they could have done so much better with him.
I don't know. This may have been another case where he had a bunch of video game developers who were reading comic book stuff and just kind of picked out what few images they had. Or
it could just be, well, this is what I would do.
Yeah,
this is cool.
There was a little bit of a hint of a lack of imagination, at least in my opinion, especially when it came to Batman, because I am getting tired of people implying that his finisher should be him running over people with his car.
Them or something,
Yeah. Out of all the stuff in his arsenal, I think this is the third time I've seen a finisher where he hits someone with a Batmobile. I'll leave it there because I think I'm going to start a fight. There was a report that they may have cast another part of Guardians of the Galaxy. The current take of the Guardians is not the first one. The first one was 4 warriors from the 31st century. One of those warriors, Yondu, may be played by Michael Rooker. Some people may remember him recently as Merle from The Walking Dead. I'm trying... He turned into a fan favorite towards the end there. I'm trying to think of what other stuff he's been in. It's not clicking as to what he's been in prior.
I can only think of
Cliffhanger, Jumper, Bone Collector, 6th Day. Wow.
Yeah. He's never really starred in a series before. He's always been that high level.
Conan.
I don't remember him.
He was in
the new one or the old one.
It looks like there's a new one coming out.
There's another. Yeah, I forgot Schwarzenegger is going to be in King Conan. Yeah. Rooker always plays like the somebody's chief field officer. The villain's primary enforcer. He's never really been a lead guy. So I don't know. Some people ask the writers and directors about.
There's a voice in Archer.
Yeah, he's been on that several times.
Easy Ponder.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's been a guest. Easy Ponder, that was the episode where Ray went back to his hometown. Right. Yeah. I don't know. The writers and directors have been kind of cagey when people mention Rooker, so I don't know if he's really going to play this Yondu character. For all I know, they may be hiring him to be a voice of Rocket Raccoon or Groot at this point. He might be able to do Rocket. Yeah, he's definitely attached to it somehow. So we'll see how that goes. DC has another animated feature coming out. This one is about Flashpoint.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is the series that changed DC from what it used to be into the New 52.
Yep.
It apparently does have some major people attached to it because 2 of the stars of Grey's Anatomy, Justin Chambers and Kevin McKidd, are starring as Flash and the Thomas Wayne Batman.
Okay, I'm sold.
So it should have some pretty good voice acting. That's good.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan is going to be Cyborg. Danny Huston is going to be General Lane. Cary Elwes is Aquaman. And Nathan Fillion, who is now a big geek name, is Hal Jordan again.
Cool.
Ron Perlman is also going to be Deathstroke. C. Thomas Howell is the Reverse Flash. Kevin Conroy, Dana Delaney, and Vanessa Marshall are all reprising roles as Bruce Wayne, Lois Lane, and Wonder Woman. So it's got a fair amount of acting, but this to me is just... I don't know. I don't think the New 52 is an improvement, so there's a part of me that just sneers every time I think about this.
Well, I was kind of thinking of one of the major... Go on.
No, go ahead.
We're all being too polite, damn it.
I was just thinking, if I recall correctly, Flashpoint is all of them, all caused by Flash, and this was the Wally West Flash.
No, it was the Barry Allen Flash. Barry Allen had been back by then.
Okay. Alright. Well, never mind.
I don't know. Every time I think about the Flash traveling between dimensions and time, I get nervous because there's... Maybe it was one of those things that was great in its day, but there is nothing that sounds quite as useless as a time treadmill. That was an actual device, a long-standing device in Flash history. I want to travel through time! Quick! Get on the Bowflex!
Yeah. Well, they actually brought it back in the first 13 chapters. Or I don't know if they brought it back, but he used a treadmill to jump into the Speed Force and wound up going through kind of a time journey. Yeah. So, it's already happened.
Let's see. The first images of Jamie Foxx starring as Electro in the new Spider-Man film have come out. I don't quite know what to say about it. It appears to be Jamie... I guess it's early on in Electro. He's got this weird blue face, but he's got a bunch of tattered clothes and a hoodie on. I really don't know what to say about it because it's kind of hard to buy it on face value. The interior part of the hood appears to be lined with LED lights for reasons I don't quite understand.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, and the scenes appear to be him hobbling down the street while people are walking by, and you would think that would gather attention.
Okay. I can't say that I've, ever seen LED lights attached to a hoodie before. So, yeah, I would definitely kind of go, huh?
I can't say I've ever said there's another one of those lit up hobos again, honey. So I'll be sure to add those to the website. It's just a curiosity to me. I'm hoping there's some kind of special effect or some extra part of the story that'll come out later. A lot of people are saying he looks like a homeless Na'vi. I'm just going to reserve judgment. We're just going to see where this goes. There's a release date for the Deadpool game coming out, June 25th.
Ooh, that looks fun.
And it must be a sign of the times because apparently the retail on this is going to be $50, not $60, $50.
That's good, I guess.
It's a curiosity. I don't know. You may still be able to pre-order at $60 at some places, but we'll see how it goes. But pre-ordering it at Amazon will get you $5 off a Marvel graphic novel. Oh, woohoo. Pre-ordering GameStop gets you 2 exclusive challenge maps and 2 bonus costumes.
Woohoo.
Yeah, probably stuff you can buy for about $10 in about 3 weeks.
Know a little more about the game.
A lot of geek sites have been talking that Disney came out with the announcement this week that there will be a new Star Wars movie every year starting in 2015.
Okay.
I'm really curious to how that will turn out.
I'm hoping this means they're not going to have one team going insane. They'll have multiple teams working on hopefully different stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because, I don't think anybody can argue that Star Wars is a deep enough universe. There should be enough stories to tell to do that. But I do worry about burnout.
Yeah. Every single year.
Yeah. This is great news for those hardcore fans, the one who can recite things in like 4 different languages and understand how many parsecs it takes to make the Kessel Run. But
much time.
Yeah. But this for the casual fan, this is overkill.
Well, I guess that means that you could essentially pick your movies. Oh, this one sounds interesting. I don't know. This next movie, that's not interesting.
Yeah, but that also means you would have to disconnect your universe. I mean, that would take the lessons that they've learned from the Marvel movies and kind of throw them out the window.
True.
So it's a mixed bag. We'll see how it goes. I'm holding out hope. I'm one of those light Star Wars fans. I can't take too much of it at any given time, and the The latest trilogy killed my taste buds for about a week.
I like Han Solo and R2-D2.
Yeah. All I can say is thank goodness for Riff Tracks. It made Breaking Dawn Part 2 very funny.
Right? Well, I actually haven't seen that, but the first Twilight, yes.
Oh, I have to recommend it because unless you like a movie where 3/4 of it is people standing around looking mopey, this is not quite the movie for you. 3 hours of 2 hours of people standing around looking mopey with a comedy track inlet, yeah, that helped a hell of a lot. Curious bit of news this week. What were you guys' opinions of the TV series Heroes?
I loved it. I loved it more than most people.
First season.
Wish I got to see all of it because right now I got holes in my opinion. I can't say either way right now.
Okay, well for right now this is kind of expanded rumor. There is not a confirmation on this. There is a chance that Microsoft is interested in bringing Heroes back as an MSN Xbox Live TV series.
I heard about that. I have mixed emotions.
Due to the success of Netflix and some of its original series coming out recently, Microsoft is looking to try to bring a few 100% original series directly to Xbox Live. And Heroes, apparently, they feel, is one of those possibilities.
Yeah, but it's not 100% original for them.
No, it will be, though, because it'll never be on TV again the way things are going. Yeah, and they're not bringing back seasons 1 through 4. They're talking about starting with season 5.
Nice. I wonder if they'll get all the same actors. Well, they don't really need to. They can just start with new people.
That's the question a lot of people have been asking, and some people say it won't work without X, Y, and Z. I say start with a new batch, because that's where the TV series really floundered. They got so stuck on the same 8 or 9 characters that they never grew. They never went anywhere.
Well, it's not just...
It's an opinion.
Yeah, that I would agree. Except I do think there are some characters they should stick with at least a couple. I think to tie it into the old.
Yeah.
Make it not completely foreign.
Maybe, but
they don't have to start with them. They could kind of let the characters establish themselves and then.
Yeah.
What
I would like to see is like Peter coming and going throughout like a crazy weird mentor person. Peter and maybe Hero.
If anything, I think Peter should be the villain, and they should probably focus on some of the ancillary characters that lack screen time. Hero's best friend. I can't remember his name.
Andy.
Ando, yeah, that's right.
Ando, that's right.
And maybe, was it the second of those triplets, the one with the water and ice powers?
I don't remember that one offhand. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She's cool.
But, again, opinions. And Joss Whedon said recently in an interview, awful things will happen in Avengers 2.
Good.
Nobody knows what exactly that means, but given what he's done in some of his previous movies, like Serenity, that they assume that means that somebody's probably going to end up on a slab.
Well, I've been hearing that Robert Downey Jr. is thinking of retiring.
That was an April.
Contract is up on Iron Man 3.
That was an April Fool's rumor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was debunked as bullshit.
I don't see him retiring anytime soon.
No,
yeah,
they're having too much fun.
Well, especially since he made $55 million for filming the Avengers, whereas the average actor on it in a starring role made somewhere to the tune of about 6.
Jesus. Well, he has had 2 successful movies as opposed to the other ones 1 for the most part.
I don't think it was just that. I think you really did have to pay him that much because arguably he was the glue that made all this possible.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you really need him back at least for one more. It would probably be worth paying him enough money to make sure he would sign on to the 3rd one, I would think. It's either that or you got to get Don Cheadle to hurry up and be a really good war machine.
Yeah, because that's what I was pointing out to people here, that, if he does retire, then they could just go the route of, well, there is no Iron Man right now, it's just War Machine.
Yeah.
Except they call him the Iron Patriot now.
Yeah, I think that's another PC thing. A little bit of sad news. The author, Robert Morales, passed away. Some people may not remember, but he wrote a pretty groundbreaking story called Truth, Red, White, and Black. It was a story that caused a little bit of retconning in Captain America's history, detailing that Captain America was not the first successful super soldier. He wrote that there was a character named Isaiah Bradley who was prior to Steve Rogers, a black soldier, mirroring a lot of the experiments that happened out in Tuskegee. Because you had black soldiers who weren't worth as much in the government's eyes as white soldiers, they were the ones experimented on during the Tuskegee Airmen era. So they did the same thing with Captain America, and they created this character who actually is kind of beloved by a lot of Captain America fans. As a matter of fact, he was written into where his grandson was one of the founding members of the Young Avengers.
Oh, okay.
So he was one of those weird guys that I guess actually saw things from the minority's point of view in comic books. He's going to be missed. And one last thing, there was a new clip of Kick-Ass 2 that was released this week.
Ooh, I haven't seen that yet.
It's got to be towards the end of the movie because it starts out with just Kick-Ass and Hit Girl confronting all the villains in the movie. Basically, I want to say it, but one of the kids is in the room. But the villain has assembled his supervillain army, and he just wants to know if they're insane. So they open the doors to this hangar, and it turns out they brought a cadre of superheroes with them.
Was I mistaken, or did I see one of Kick-Ass's actual friends? He's become a hero now, too.
Yes.
Yeah, the one with the glasses in the first movie. The chubby one who was hitting on his girlfriend's friend.
Right.
He's put on a costume and calls himself, depending on who you ask, either Ass Kick or Battle Guy. Put a lot of thought into that.
Some rip-off of Captain America's uniform.
Well, I mean, the funniest thing about it was when all these heroes are assembled and now you've got two mobs staring across from each other, Hit Girl just looks across at the leader and says, "Avengers assemble, asshole." So they may have changed directors, but it looks like it's going to have a very similar feel to the first movie. I'm getting more excited the more I see about it. And in this scene, if you watch carefully, you'll find a German Shepherd in it. Something to look forward to. There's one more piece of news that came out just in the last couple days, and this one has got me curious. Tom Hiddleston may be starring in another comic book movie. Reportedly, he is in early talks and doing makeup tests to star as Eric Draven.
Okay, that name sounds familiar.
He was the lead character in a very popular movie in 1994, The Crow.
Okay.
They're remaking The Crow, and apparently he's very far in the lead to do it. This is one of those things that could be both smart. It could be smart on several levels because not only is Hiddleston proven to be a good actor, he doesn't seem to mind being a little outlandish for his roles, but he would also bring girls en masse to watch this movie.
Other than just the emo punk one?
Oh, no. Dude, you should see this at conventions nowadays. I see a lot of Lokis running around, and just about all of them have vaginas. This is their character. So, yeah, kudos to them. I would like to see it if it works out. But we'll get into our pop culture profiling. We're going to do some Avengers and X-Men, and we're going to start at the top. Since we've kind of bounced around it a little bit, let's talk Tony Stark.
I'm surprised he didn't kill himself with the drugs.
Are we talking Stark or Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah.
Either.
It's one of those characters that I guess you could say found his legs later on. I mean, if we're talking Tony Stark, I mean, he made something out of himself. But there is something to be said about somebody removing the character. You would be a weapon designer, and your life is suddenly being marred by the very things you're building. I mean, that's post-traumatic stress by definition.
Right.
Just a severe midlife crisis.
That's not hers.
Yeah, and then not to mention, adding on the weight of the fatal wounding that he had to come up with the way to save himself from.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you got to rethink your life when you think you're dying.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is something to be said about a guy who is hanging with all these heavyweights, even though he's technically perfectly human.
Right.
You may have a couple pieces.
Smart
It's
human.
still the
Yeah.
syndrome.
It is. I mean, it is. It would take somebody really revolutionary, even in the 60s, to design that walking garbage can he was in.
But there are people like that, though.
There are, and
it's not unreasonable to think that he could be one of them.
No, I mean, you look at things on YouTube these days, and there are teams of engineers who are developing exosuits that are almost ready for the army. I mean, they won't look like these shiny red and gold items here, but they are things that can enhance lifting power, and if you can armor them correctly, would create a hell of a lot of protection for the wearer.
Right. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you don't want to run around looking like a race car or a sports car on the battlefield anyway.
Screaming double 38s on the side!
Look at me! Look at me!
Yeah.
Well, I think Tony was kind of doing that on purpose so that they would look at him for various reasons, not the least of which being... Yeah, well, that. But also, I mean, if he's going to be defending the innocent, he wants them to pay attention to him, not other people.
Potentially if you decide to use this as superhero, because there is credence to the argument that if this is going to be a mass-produced item, you would want as low of a profile as possible. I mean, just because your armor would be bulletproof doesn't mean you want to test its durability at any given moment.
That's true.
Yeah, and I mean, if he hadn't turned his life around, per se, then if he wasn't such a decent guy and had stayed a weapons dealer, and so forth, then yeah, the world would be a much different place. Well,
there is something to be said about how it was written in the comic books, because putting some thought into it, the fact that he did have trouble with relationships, the fact that he had trouble with drinking, and all these different outlets for what he was going through, that's actually pretty reasonable in my estimation.
I agree.
Yeah. They did a very good job showing just how hard it would be.
Yeah, he's the character. Well, just about any character in this situation would definitely have a very checkered past, because all of the good that would be created, there are some points where when you try to get out of this, think about it this way: not only are you doing incredible good, but you're seeing some of the most horrific things people can do. You have to cause horrific injuries, if not kill people, and then there would be that probably nagging thing in the back of your brain that as soon as you got out of this armor, you're not quite as special as a lot of people think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you are his designer and primary user, once you're out of it, you're not a superhero anymore. You're just another schmuck with a bottle of scotch. So this would be a very complex character, but and he's been on Marvel's B list for a while. The movies drove him into the A list, and this is one of the more believable character archetypes now that we're going through it, I think.
I agree. Makes sense.
It would definitely take someone of unusual fortitude to hold it together. Because, I mean, I'm afraid of falling, so the flying thing would be a pain in the ass for me. I don't like the idea of being in a vacuumless area, so the fact that he would be able to design this stuff and use it in space, kudos to you. Underwater, I have about the same kind of phobias to a lesser degree since I can swim. So,
the armor.
Yeah, so iron wouldn't just be in the armor, those would be in the cojones down there. I would like to see technology come to this point. I mean, I'm glad that we finally have battlefields in real life that don't entirely involve our soldiers out front. Drones are a wonderful thing when used properly.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about people being able to make actual decisions out there, because, as lethal as drones are, it's not like they can make quick turns and be able to re-engage if necessary. So, hopefully we can develop properly protected soldiers.
Hoping someday it won't be necessary, at least against other Earthlings.
You would hope so, but this is one of those social issues, because as long as people, in my opinion, make major decisions based on their religious beliefs, we're going to have problems.
Yeah, but there might be someday a day of global enlightenment. Who knows?
Hopefully. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen unless someone has actually been dead for 30 minutes, came back and said, "It's all bullshit!"
That would be great.
I think we covered that one. Let's move over to the mutant side of the aisle, because I am curious to get opinions on Magneto. I mean, I read a book a while ago called Science of the X-Men. It's a wonderful book where comic book fans got together with a geneticist and discussed possible real-world applications of these things. And Magneto, after I read that, frightens me. Because the power is basically magnetic manipulation, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I found out that magnetism is one of the 4 basic bonding energies of the universe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one of the 4 fundamental ways that things are created. Magnetism, high-level nuclear, low-level nuclear, and gravity. Yep. So you have someone who is about 2 steps away from being able to fundamentally alter reality.
Yeah, he's...
Well, given his past, his upbringing, and the powers he has available to him, I'm surprised there's still a Germany.
Yeah, I think that his powers are represented as being, as he understands them more than I think he really would.
Well, I mean, removing Eric Lenscher from the character and just assuming this would be some young Jewish kid, technically I think that Germany would still exist because it was during the internment of the Jewish population that his powers emerged. There would be a level of understanding required. But at the same time, I mean, it's not really surprising that a character like that would turn into a villain. I mean, that's somebody who lived through one of the worst things imaginable, and after it was over, discovered he had the power to potentially alter it all.
Right.
Right.
You know, that's post-traumatic stress of a level I could not imagine.
Dude, if I found out I had that ability, I'd probably go out and start trying to change things the way I want them to be.
Or you'd be reaching across the couch and going, "Come here, remote, come here."
Yeah, but it's made out of plastic.
Move, batteries, move! But, I mean, assuming this would be the character at the peak, you know, the one that could lift buses and submarines without really blinking, this is the type of character that almost begs to be despotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Steve was mentioning earlier with the Superman debate. If I don't like it, I'm changing it now.
Right. I mean, what's to stop you?
Yeah, not much. I mean, conventional arms are useless.
Yeah.
You know, not unless you're willing to nuke a city, and even then, is there any guarantee that he won't flip the rocket, park it, and say, "Mine"? You know, got any more?
So much fuel for those.
So, could you imagine somebody flying around with a bunch of rockets packed down next to a gas station? Fill these up.
Oh my.
You know, but there was something in the book that I thought was very interesting because he mentioned that it seems like there's a bunch of characters who are able to move things depending on their environment. You know, Storm was raised in Africa at a very natural place. She learned how to manipulate the weather. Professor X was in an area where he earned his doctorate. He was in an area where he was surrounded by people. He learned to manipulate minds. And Magneto, as a young child, was surrounded by all this iron and metal he would really like to get out of the way, and he developed the power to move it. So
environment seems to have a lot to do with their powers.
Or at least how they're written in, anyway.
Yeah.
But it also frightens me that when you think about how much... We've moved away from using massive metals in a lot of things, but when you think about how much is still out there, oh my god.
Yeah.
You know, just about any city is a playground. Your only chance would be to isolate this person like rural Nebraska and start shooting.
With bullets.
I know. I can't... Something like this would pretty much be unstoppable in modern society.
Yeah. I mean, technically it would be much easier to take them alive since you'd be firing rubber rounds or whatever. But
A bunch of beanbag shots? I don't know.
Well,
you
can just gas him.
You gotta go medieval on him.
No, V's right. Chemical warfare would be fairly effective.
Oh yeah, definitely.
it just depends on your delivery.
Yeah. But I mean, depending on how you manipulate, something like this, if they can manipulate the magnetic field, could potentially create wormholes.
I think that would mean more specifically gravity control.
Well, gravity would be part of it, but if you can rip apart the magnetosphere, you could create slipstream space.
I suppose so.
You could potentially have an enemy that could be anywhere.
Yeah, although I think I'd be a little careful about testing that one out.
Yeah, the whole nature abhors a vacuum idea.
Yeah. And then you'd have to decide if you can live with yourself after having created something, like, horrific.
Yeah, but that's one of those power sets that almost begs you not to be careful. I mean, if you wanted to live a quiet life, yeah, you'd have to develop very fine pinhole-like control. But if you want to just do what you want to do, who gives a crap? Throw the bus.
Yeah, I think a handful of Pipkos would be dangerous in his hands.
The only reason to take something like this alive is to hope that you could create something even more powerful with breeding, selective breeding. I mean, that sounds brutal, but if you take the idea of Magneto's kids, if you actually look at the ones in the comic books, Quicksilver, the Scarlet Witch, Polaris.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did they actually write her in as an actual child?
Yep. It's a half-sister to the other two, officially.
Huh.
Isn't that pondering? But I think we'll jump out of that, because that's a bit of an uncomfortable subject. Quick, screw her! Yeah. We'll move back to the Avengers, and we'll talk about Jesse's idea of Captain America. I guess my question is, it's similar to Iron Man. How far away are we from doing this already? The science behind bodybuilding is getting so acute these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It may not be as simple as drink this and we'll zap you with radiation, but there is a process we're developing, obviously, already to create bigger, stronger human beings. You watch the NFL, you see it every week.
Yeah, and there's a lot of science recently that's been uncovered as far as the human body is concerned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember, it used to be when you tore an ACL, your athletic career was over. Nowadays, you tear an ACL, 6 months later, you're back out there, possibly stronger.
Yep.
We're learning a frightening amount about the body. Although this type of character, though, would be very well helped by idealism.
Yeah.
The idea that this person wants to be a soldier, obviously, it adds an extra level of control. And training, which is always good. But we're also finding out more about the human brain these days and how veterans are coming back, massively affected by what they've been through.
Oh, yeah.
And when you think about the type of adventures this guy would have, it would almost be amazing he wouldn't require adult depends and just muttering in a corner.
Yeah, your retirement options for this type of person does not seem, rosy, sunny, or any other kind of good.
Yeah,
I think the power would get to him too much.
Probably. A combination of wartime stress as well as a body that would be constantly in peak human condition.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the stereotypical portrayal of jocks on TV. I'm sure that's gotten from something.
I mean, you have the stereotypical portrayal of veterans these days. We're only recently coming up with programs to deal with homeless vets.
Yeah, in this case, he would be, once he was forced to retire, he'd probably just end up disappearing.
Well, homeless veterans can be rather frightening because they may be emaciated like a lot of homeless people, but these are still individuals who are trained to kill with little to no effort.
Yeah, I think that if he did get forced to retire, he'd probably end up against the system, being exposed to injustices.
I mean, if we're talking about a singular individual, it becomes a lot easier to focus on that person. This is somebody that's special. So they're not just going to be like, oh, thanks for your hard work, kick to the side. It's going to be, more along the lines of, okay, let's make sure that, certain things don't happen because of what he's
otherwise he becomes a mercenary fighter for whoever has, top dollar.
Right? Oh, that would be the ideal outcome, but the problem is that we live in, I don't want to say such a secular, but we live in such a segmented society these days that if this guy came out on one side of the aisle or the other, the opposite side would revile him as a devil anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in a society nowadays where somebody like this could be ignored. I mean, they ignore us. 89% of us want a higher level of gun control, at least background checks, and almost half the Senate decided that, these people don't want this. They lie to themselves every day. They lie to themselves about somebody like this and his needs.
Right, although I think it would be more of a military decision than Senate or governmental body decision. That's
the problem, though, is that while the military would have say over its active individuals, as soon as it's inactive, this person would be under, relative care of the Senate and those assholes.
He might spend time in a cushy cell in some place if they decide he was too dangerous.
There's that possibility, too.
That's a fucked up outcome.
Yeah. So we've got an individual who would have a lot of power, but as soon as he took off that mask, he would have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
That's sad.
He has a potential to become a real militia leader.
Yeah.
Things don't go to him for him in his retirement.
Yeah. But I mean, going sideways, I could only hope that if there was somebody developed like this, then not only would they have a gun, but we could develop something similar to the actual comic book shield. I mean, it sounds like a dopey weapon, but the more I look into it, the idea that this shield could absorb and redirect energy almost instantaneously, that could keep you safe from a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Bring back True Spartans.
Maybe. Goodness knows that once they're in the military, they're all pretty much lab rats anyway.
Yeah.
But we will bounce again back into the gene pool, so to say. And the next topic is Jean Grey.
Oh man.
Now let's step back from the cosmic stuff from a little bit.
I have not even touched the cosmic.
So
I'm just remembering the origins of her telepathy and just. Yeah, that was
okay.
A sort of situation.
Yeah,
let's hear it. I want to see what your
movies.
Yeah, let's hear it. I want to hear your version of this origin.
Well,
and remember, we're removing Jean Grey. We're talking about somebody else going through this similar situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay. So you've got the ability to move crap with your mind, and then you witness. I think it was her best friend, but at least it was a friend.
She didn't start out telekinetic. That came up later. She started out telepathic.
Was that the original?
Yes. Remember, you read All New X-Men. She just developed the. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You're right. I do have that. I don't have that reversed, but it was her telepathy that came up first.
Okay. Well, in any case, you witness your friend dying, and your powers activate. You're in their mind, and they die.
Okay. At what age?
How old was she? She was
about 10.
Just preteen, pretty much.
Yeah, she was about 10. This was a childhood friend. So, you're right. We have a young girl who would watch her friend get hit by a car, and then as her friend is dying, she accidentally enters her mind and goes through that trauma with her. You are basically starting out as the most fucked up individual.
I have to say, it's amazing with everything that went on that, she didn't just go batshit crazy.
She should have for a while. I mean, that could have been an interesting arc, is to help her get past it.
Yeah, I mean, the comic book version came out smelling like a rose. Xavier found her at home, talked to her parents, and the whole 9 yards. But I would assume in real-world applications, and assuming you take Jean Grey out of it, that this person wouldn't be recruited at home. Somebody would go and talk to her parents, and then have to find out what mental institution this person is locked up at.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, that was the first time she met death.
Yeah.
At that point.
It was the first time she experienced several things.
It's kind of like, well, what happened? Well, I just talked to death. Right. Yeah, you would be in the nearest, mental care institute very quickly.
I mean, let alone, some people always seem to joke about untrained telepaths, at least in comic books, as these people who just hear a whole bunch of voices. Sometimes I wonder, because that's based on range. If you're untrained, I would think your range would be relatively close, so instead, you would have somebody who's not hearing a bunch of voices, you'd be walking behind, suddenly they turn around and just yell at you, "Stop looking at my ass!" How'd you know?
I think if you're telepathic, you have to get to a point where you are okay with listening to other people's thoughts, or you just can block it out.
Well, that would have to be developed, otherwise you would go insane. There would be so many voices you would have to question which one is you, which one is someone else, and which one is one you're imagining.
Right.
But I mean, let alone you add the aspect of the telekinetics.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who has, even without the idea of this Phoenix Force, very abusable power.
Oh, yeah.
I think that she would I honestly think she would go schizophrenic in short order, because there's a theory that the voices that some schizophrenic people hear is actually just them
Yeah, it's usually their
thoughts, but unable to determine that they're not their own thoughts.
Right, it's someone's imagination run crazy.
It's almost sounds like the building blocks to the exorcism.
Yeah, but let's entertain for the thought that maybe all schizophrenic that hear voices are actually telepathic.
Oh my god.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's...
Well, maybe not all of them, but many of them.
That's a frightening prospect in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know, that would also make you re-guess whether or not that Dime Storm psychic might actually know something about your life.
Yeah. Well, and then, so we're taking all these people and we're locking them up in mental institutions where they're all together, so then they wind up developing a hive mind. Excellent.
Oh. Dude! Okay, I have to write this now.
And then there's an explosion of psychic power. The building is level, but there's no flame. And I think we just wrote the latest Stephen King novel.
Now I'm totally going to write this. Next week, I'll have the first chapter.
I mean, the functionality of this person would definitely be in question because it's like you said, unless you learn to shut it out, you are going crazy. And then I just have this image of somebody sitting in a rubber room playing with plastic horses floating in front of them. Dance, horses, dance. Dance, horses, dance. So, I mean, it's... The prospects for this person are low, not because they aren't powerful, but because they're... If all this happened as a kid, how do you cope? There are kids nowadays who can't cope with what's going on. That's why you find these people dressed up in fishnets with, black lipstick and slicing themselves open and writing in bad journals.
If it happened as an adult or later as adolescence, I could see them adjusting better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like traumatic things that happen to you in childhood are
scarring.
Traumatic emotional things that happen in childhood are definitely much more scarring than they are.
Oh, definitively life-altering. I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah, she definitely benefited from having Professor Xavier. Somebody who'd been there, gone through it before, and was able to kind of...
Yeah, but we're talking about a layman who probably wouldn't have that level of support.
If you don't have somebody that can kind of shield you from all of that, then the prospects are far more grim. Well,
the first X-Men... taken as an archetype, not only did they have a mentor, they had each other. They had people who they could relate to among their own circles. I mean, this individual, presumably in an average society, would have almost no one to relate to. There would be a lot of kids today with most relationships being over the internet, and then the ones they have in real life in high school being largely bullshit to begin with.
Yeah, and then I guess, if we go the other way with it, if her range actually was so great, then we're talking about an individual that could actually have her own internet telepathically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also think about if this person had any level of control over it, they could turn out to being dumb as dog because they could take tests and just immediately look through the teacher's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have problems with morals, ethics, and overall intelligence. So you could potentially, if this started as a teenager, have someone who turns into the equivalent of a sledgehammer. A lot of power, not a lot of motivation.
Yeah. And then, of course, there is the fact that, what happens when you don't actually like what somebody else is thinking.
And...
It's their mind, or just remove it.
Or you could use your telekinetics and snap their spinal column. Or you could disconnect their cerebellum.
I mean, you learn fine-tuned enough telekinetic control, and you could be, that person died of a brain aneurysm. How unlucky.
Could you imagine that as a teenager, though? Those people that are emotional and, roughly in control. I said, turn around and look at me. Suddenly the head does a 180 and the shoulders don't.
Oh.
That's not what I meant. I think I just put an image in everyone's head because suddenly you're all stunned into silence. Like, piss.
I'm picturing that.
I got a visual too.
Could you imagine that in the middle of a hallway? Suddenly everyone turns around, looks at the body. I didn't do it.
Yeah. I don't know. And then of course there's the God. Now I can't get the image of zapped and zapped again. This guy going through puberty. Oh, yeah.
I think less about that, more about the recent movie that came out, Chronicle.
I never actually Saw that.
Sit down and watch that. That's almost this situation. 3 high school age kids. One's a popular jock, one's student body president, and one is an outcast. And it's all filmed from the vantage point of like handy cams. You know, it's kind of Cloverfield style, very guerrilla style. They find some kind of weird artifact that they think is talking to them, and they start developing extreme level of telekinetic power.
Yeah, no, I remember that now.
Watch that movie. It's pretty much what we're talking about right now. And it's one of those things that didn't do well in the box office because a lot of people saw that and said, "Ooh, new superhero movie." They went out, saw it. Well, that was bullshit. That was depressing. That was life. Yeah. So write that down. Check it out on Netflix or something. It's probably out there by now. But let's move on because I think we're starting to pee each other's pants, frankly. Let's talk about another Avenger, and this one was my suggestion, Luke Cage. This is one of those things I don't think you guys are as familiar with, so I'll skip down to the power and ability. This person would have superhuman strength and stamina, extremely dense skin and muscle tissue, which render him highly resistant to physical injury. Okay, these abilities came as a result of participation in a dangerous and highly controversial experiment while in prison. You guys know that this was this person was framed for a crime?
I was unfamiliar with that.
Yeah. It was part of an early release deal. This person took an experiment which upped their strength and durability in exchange for release. And
there's been a high mortality rate with this process.
I don't know what his success rate was, but basically the skin is developed to the point where its strength is similar to titanium. Can resist high caliber bullets, puncture wounds, corrosives, and temperature extremes and pressures without sustaining damage. That's not to say you couldn't hurt this person, because enough blunt force trauma you can still knock them out.
Yeah.
And again, I just have to kind of question, why are you taking someone from an undesirable, and trying to give them superpowers?
There is a
thing. It's like, I could see the super soldier. You're taking someone that you're like, okay, we want this guy and we want him to be more powerful because he's out protecting us.
Yeah.
I get even experimenting on police officers and so forth. I understand that it's kind of the lab rat principle, but at the same time, it's like, what do you do with someone when it succeeds?
That is a fair argument. It really is. But this is kind of similar to what we talked about earlier with Isaiah Bradley. Is I get the idea that this was a character. I mean, jumping out of the conversation, talking about Luke Cage for a little bit, there were not many minority heroes out there. And you're talking about an industry that is basically ruled at the time by, older white people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they wrote based on their concepts.
Right. It was fairly stereotypical.
Yeah. But back to the conversation, I mean, you're right. Taking a prisoner, even somebody wrongfully accused, and giving him this level of power, you're almost guaranteeing creating a psychopath even out of an honest person.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that, here's a person that's been falsely accused. So now they probably have lost faith in the system.
Yeah.
And, they have great reason to abuse, their powers because, hello,
well,
you just screwed me. What reason do I have?
You have the possibility of creating really two types of people. You would either create something very similar to Luke Cage, somebody whose morality trumps the idea of what wrong has been done to them, and you're going to create someone who can actually clean up, the neighborhoods that are a blight, or you are going to create something more like, 50 Cent? Somebody who's going to go out there, not take crap from anybody, including authority, and probably end up installing themselves as something similar to Wilson Fisk. You have a new kingpin of crime simply because just about all the standard weapons you would find out there, short of a grenade launcher, is not going to stop this guy. It is a frightening prospect.
Yeah.
I mean, V, what's your opinion? You've been very silent in this section.
I'm just not familiar with the character, so...
Well, we're talking about power and possibility like we were last week.
Yeah, let's see.
I think I agree with Steve. I don't see... There's a chance this will turn out positive. I don't see a high likelihood of it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just going with random prisoner A who volunteers to get out early, which, by the way, that doesn't seem like... It's like, okay, yeah, so if we succeed, we're going to let you free.
Well, this... This was written.
Dude is totally going to be a villain.
Yeah, this was written back in an era where we didn't have 1 out of every 30 people with a prison record. Believe it or not, that's the current stat.
1 out of
every 30 individuals in America currently has a criminal record.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it could be as small as a drug charge. It could be parole. But 1 out of every 30 people has been arrested and convicted of something. This, boy, that changed the outlook, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, this character, it would really depend on where they went as soon as they left prison, because this would either be very right or very wrong.
Yeah, it would depend on who mentored them. Like, what their prison experience was.
Yeah.
God.
Well, I only got raped 3 times. It wasn't that bad.
He found he liked it. He's the first homosexual.
Oh, God.
Do you think he whistles while he punches?
Okay, this is so wrong. Okay, no, I'm stopping right there. I was going to go further, but no.
Okay. Well, this one turned out to be more cut and dry than I thought. But there is one thing I do want to say about the character. He did do something awesome when he stole the Wrecker's crowbar for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a punch and a half, basically. So we are back into the Children of the Atom, and we're going to talk about one of our favorite characters here, Cyclops.
Well, current favorite.
Hey, yeah. I mean, the power is very straightforward. It is an optic blast. It is a high-power kinetic beam that seems to emanate from the eyes. I again, from the book, there's different theories about this, but definitely the eyes seem to be where the area of emanation are.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it sound like he's farting from his head. Sorry.
Well, I mean, let's think about this for a moment. If the only material or substance able to, stop this from happening because of whatever reason, and it didn't emanate from the eyes, then he couldn't have the cool-looking ruby sunglasses, and instead would have to wear gloves or wherever it's emanating from. You'd have to cover it up.
Gloves?
Wearing ruby depends.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out what you were talking about here, because when you said gloves, I'm thinking, is he throwing them up in front of his eyes? Is his superhero name Peekaboo? What the hell is this? No, but this type of power, I spent a little while thinking about it this week, and this is not ass-kissing, this is not playing favorites, this is the first type of power I think we've come across that would almost force somebody to be honest to a certain level. And when I say that, I mean you have a power that works in one format, it's unidirectional, and it's not as all-encompassing as a lot of the other characters we've come across. This isn't physical perfection, this isn't a mentality that causes you to create a suit of armor that can create you in all directions. You would have to be a very careful person whether you were of high moral or not.
Right. Well, it is somewhat similar to Rogue. It definitely limits your human contact.
I don't want to say human contact, but Rogue also, her powers do have a certain level of being able to watch her own back. I mean, somebody sneaks up on you and they touch your skin, they're going down anyway.
Right.
If somebody can approach you from the rear with this power, they could potentially, do a lot of damage or knock you out before you're aware of them.
Very true.
Yeah.
Although, what to do with the person afterwards?
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say this is the first kind of power that would keep you honest, because regardless of whether you're a hero or villain, this is the type of power that would create someone similar in ability to Cyclops, because you have to realize how to use it, since it isn't omnidirectional.
Yeah, well, and then, of course, you would also probably wind up a little paranoid, depending on how many people are actually trying to do you harm.
Oh, given. I mean, you would have to develop a certain level of paranoia because you have no off switch.
That and, is someone sneaking up behind me?
Suddenly I have this image of somebody running around not only with a visor, but with a bicycle-style rearview mirror, attached to him.
It's like, what's his name from Birdman? Don't touch me!
Did you get that thing? Did you get that thing I sent you?
Oh man!
But
but you're quite true, quite right. I mean, you would definitely... I mean, I wear glasses. Just knowing, oh crap, I got something in my eye. Oh, my eye's itching. Just whatever. You're always taking these things off, or you're, lifting them up, or so on and so forth, and then you lose them, and yeah, it would be quite annoying being.
But it's not just that. I mean, it is the absolute amount of power. I mean, we've seen the control, at least in the comic books, where this can be used to knock around, pool balls and play a game. But there have been other examples where this person was in a box canyon and had enough power where as soon as they removed the glasses, they could ram their way through the box canyon out the other side of the mountain.
Right.
And that's not like a prolonged blast. We're not tunneling like a la Looney Tunes style here. It literally means, I open my eyes, I close them again, and the obstacle is gone. That has so much potential for abuse, I can't even quantify it.
Yeah. No, or just accidents. I sneezed, my glasses shifted. Oops.
Well, looking from this perspective...
You didn't want that eyebrow, right?
Let's look from the perspective that he doesn't have the flaws where it's always on.
That would even be a more frightening prospect because this person would have the type of power that's similar to other characters in that without that visor, there's no outward physical appearance of this person is any different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would lend itself to a whole, potentially to, assuming they're non-ethical, to a massive crime spree.
Yeah, because there's not too much that's going to get in your way at that point.
But not in front of you. It might be a few people sneaking up behind you.
Saying what Cyclops as he is, the whole shades, blocking the powers, can't be an intimidation effect when he puts his hands on them and saying, so, we making a deal or not?
Yeah. It's one of those things where if there was perfect control of it, you wouldn't even ask the guy to put up his hands. You would literally say face down. But even then, who says there wouldn't be enough imagination that he just sends a massive shockwave through the ground?
Yeah, well, and then of course there's, the whole ricocheting I-beams thing.
Yeah.
I'm still not exactly sure how that works out, but...
Well, let's talk about the science book I read, because when I read that, they brought up a couple things that would be very true. First of all, they said that this blast is not a laser, as a lot of people seem to think. It's it's kinetic.
Force.
Yeah, it's basically a force moving molecules creating a smashing effect. Which is very true, because very few people he shoots are burned. They're always knocked around. Secondly, when you think about the amount of power, this person... If it was just straight energy as we currently understand it, this person with that amount of power would pretty much be radiating energy out of every pore. Cable would not be working when they sat in the room. So it's more likely that it falls in line with this person's theory that Cyclops' power is not energy emanating from within him. It's more of a mental aspect. He's opening a portal that has energy coming out of it. Similar to the concept of a fourth-dimensional gate, like the old anime gatekeepers.
Okay.
Think of it in that aspect, only focused on the eye. In other words, his power may not be emanating energy so much as calling energy from some kind of extra-dimensional source.
Won't be too far-fetched within X-Men, actually.
Not within comic books, anyway. Yeah. But I'm talking about, actual physics.
Right. I mean, if I remember correctly, his power is actually his body absorbs solar radiation and, doesn't stop, which is why it's always firing and lost the ability to turn it on and off due to an accident.
Well, yeah, according to the comic books, both he and Havoc absorb low-level cosmic rays, basically starlight. Which, you're right, is always out there, because if it isn't the sun, it's the stars in the sky.
But I guess you could modify that to, the ability to open this gate, path could actually be, him absorbing the radiation.
Yeah. But I guess we can agree that this person would technically... This is like Luke Cage. This would really depend... The powers would really depend on the person and how they're used. Man, that was just weird. But I do think it would create somebody probably very technically smart.
Yeah.
Because, again, you would have to learn how to watch your own back. You would, even though you would have a cannon in your face, you would still have to learn how to fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's always been one of the things. I mean, he seems to be able to regulate at least the amount of force emitted to some degree, because it's not like, every time he shoots somebody, a mountain disappears. So,
Kamehame.
Yeah, in a way. Except without that annoying charge up.
I don't know. He always has to put his finger up to that temple.
Yeah, well,
he's got
that would be quite amusing. He just starts raising the finger. Man. It just becomes a step point. It's like everybody's like, "Oh crap!"
That switching the finger thing always kind of bothered me. The more I thought about it, especially growing up in the '60s, maybe it made sense. But in the era where we live with smartphones and controllers and all this handheld stuff, how many times do you think you would accidentally blast an iPad in half? Let's see what email I got on my phone. Zap! Damn it!
Yeah. Well, and then of course you had the pressure sensitive gauntlet or whatever that.
Oh, I'm not going to start with that. I got a curveball for you, because I was looking up stuff. There was one other character I wanted to throw your guys' way.
Okay. Sure.
And he was kind of the intro to the latest one, recently described as one of the gayest X-Men, Cypher.
I'm not
I have
familiar
no
with
clue.
him.
Okay,
No.
Cypher, Doug Ramsey.
Oh, okay.
Doug Ramsey had kind of an innocuous power when he first started. He could understand and speak in any language.
Yep.
Which, in his early run of the New Mutants, he was kind of cannon fodder. He needed to be protected a lot. A lot. The character's recently been brought back to life, and the powers have been amped up in a particular way, which I think makes this very curious and worth discussion. He doesn't just understand all written and spoken languages anymore. He understands subtle languages too. Computer language, body language, subtext. Could you imagine having the power, like if you were in a UFC fight, as soon as this person started to dip their shoulder, you could see the entire combination he's about to throw?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be quite impressive.
That means somebody even physically subpar could turn into one hell of a fighter if he understands how to move his own body.
To a degree. You would need some level of physicality.
That's why
to be able to react.
That's what I mean by being able to move his own body. You would obviously need a reaction time to cope with what you're reading, but at the same time, being able to read that move, the first 3 moves in the combination would be worthless, throw someone off, and then you could pretty much knock them out. It's...
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be able to read the entire combo, but definitely, at least, exactly what they were going to be doing first.
Yeah, but
and if you keep paying attention, then you could keep reading.
I think this type of power goes back to what V said about Rogue. Depending on how it's used, you could either create somebody who would manipulate the world and be like some kind of backroom trader and slowly take it over, or you would have someone who could actually communicate so well with all parties, they could be a unifier.
Yeah.
He is the next harem king.
20 chicks and not one mad. At least he could talk his way out of a period.
Oh, God.
Oh, my.
Alright, let's see it coming.
You appear to be a little heavier on your left side. I'll be leaving for a few days.
And then, of course, you have the potential of him being some kind of uber hacker as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, computer language would be nothing. I mean, obviously he would have to be able to get to a more basic version of the script to be able to read it, but if he could read the source code, he could probably figure out the passwords pretty quickly.
Yep.
Here's another thought. Man, I wish I could remember the articles I read on it, but language has an effect on your brain chemistry, like the languages that you know and more importantly speak do actually change your brain in some minute and potentially important ways. So this person that could understand a bunch of languages, how different would they be mentally if that is the case, if they're affected by those things? I would imagine
they would be a pretty enlightened individual, because think of it in terms of reading. There are sometimes when we read books, I should say informational books, nonfiction type stuff. Say somebody from high school is reading a quantum physics books. In general, they'd be lost, but with the ability and a little bit of intelligence, can you imagine how quickly in line these phrases would be to somebody? As long as you understand a basic glossary, that means you can put together these concepts very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, how quickly do you absorb information, and how quickly can you process that information that's coming in? You could take extreme shortcuts.
Yeah,
I mean, not to mention the fact that they literally say he can read subtext, which means that, rather than reading everything that just the technical information, he's probably even able to pick up on the subtext of the person that's writing it.
Oh, that's what I mean. I mean, it's like the old joke that used to be passed around. This is, I've seen stereo instructions that make more sense than this. That means this person can pick up those stereo instructions and go, no, this makes perfect sense. Look here.
Yeah.
This would almost be a subtly awe-inspiring individual.
What would really frustrate this person would be that old mental exercise: write out how to make a peanut butter sandwich.
What, an African or European peanut butter sandwich?
I would it would be kind of intriguing to see how this person actually handled that, or if they would just kind of look at them and say no. Done.
This could also be a very infuriating person, though, if you got them into a conversation about religion.
Or if they decided to follow a religion.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the person that actually comes up with an actual concept of religion that would blow the others away, and a thoughtless person would say, no, this is why this is bullshit. Look right here.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean, he reads the Bible, reads the Quran, reads the Mormon book, which I don't know if it actually has a different name.
Yeah, the Book of Mormon, yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff. Is able to read it and read subtext.
Yeah.
And he puts together the basic principles upon which all of them are founded. And then...
Yeah. No. When he wrote this, he was talking about sleeping with your wife. Right here, look.
Oh, the Bible would be a gold mine for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I literally do not know about the Quran. I've never read it. But.
Nor I. It's just this person. This person would either be very soothing or very infuriating.
Both.
Yeah.
Both at the same time, potentially. Yes.
Yeah.
Depends on, if he's really paying attention or wants to be a certain way.
He would be the quirky but lovable hero that no one understands but gets results.
He would be the bard of the group.
My question is, can he read himself, and would he be afraid to look in the mirror?
I don't know.
My first inclination is no, but
I don't know. I mean, that brings up an interesting question of like looking at this person, after they're done shaving, wipe down the face, look in the mirror, and go, I am an asshole.
and I'm okay.
Yeah, rather than sitting down to meditate to achieve self-awareness, he just stares in the mirror, but he thinks he's a narcissist. Holy crap. Totally Stark.
Oh my god.
Oh, who knows, though? Maybe if we put him in a news desk, we'd actually get something accurate for once. Oh, my god. Okay, this has been fun. We'll have to do this again. We'll have to do this again in the near future. But I do think we've come to a point where we need to discuss a few comic books.
Okay.
I was thinking that next, there's been 7 issues out, Cable and X-Force. No, actually, let's backburner that for one more week, because I do think that we need to spend some time on a DC book. And I want to test the theory I've heard that Aquaman is fun.
Okay.
I want to check out, how many issues should we read? Because that's got to be about 13 issues out by now.
Last bit I read kind of disappointed me.
Well, we should really start from the beginning, because I'd like to be on the same frame of reference. What fun is it starting in the middle? And at least since it's all recent, it should be fairly easy to get.
Well, if we're just focusing on one book, we could probably just read all 13.
It sounds like a bit much in case any of us, get bored in the middle. How about 7?
Okay.
7's a good fair number, and it won't keep us up late nights, and won't, have V pissing off her boyfriend or anything. Does that sound fair?
Sounds good.
All right. Aquaman.
Right.
You know, we all may be a bunch of Marvelites, but we should read the other aisle and see if there's anything good out there.
And
you know, and I've heard Aquaman is good, and I'm curious to test it.
No, I can vouch for that. It's good.
All right, well, let's find out. Let's get some other opinions in there. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for tuning in again. Wow, my tongue just tried to kill itself there. I am no cipher. Thank you very much for tuning in. I invite you to roll with us again next week. We'll talk about some Aquaman, and I do have one parting question for you guys. Do you have any cartoons or any TV shows that you wish would get a second chance?
I have several.
Really?
I have several.
What do you mean?
Even if we put aside the obvious Firefly.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The shows or cartoons?
Either one. I added shows because I know V is not a big animation nut.
Well, for me, Gargoyles would be one that I wish would come back and
that would be good with some modern writing, yeah.
Because the whole Disney thing was garbage.
And the other one, I wouldn't mind if they actually reboot it, would be Exo Squad.
Ooh. That's an interesting pick. V, anything out there for you?
Wow. Well, let's see. There was the kind of obscure show that was, what the heck was that name? Frickin' A.
Like that show.
Wonder Falls.
What? I'm not familiar.
It's just a quirky little weird show. This girl who works at the Niagara Falls, I forget what their deal is, but she keeps seeing things around her start talking to her, and they encourage her to do things in her life.
Ooh. You always have fun adventures when you do things that inanimate objects tell you to do.
Right?
What about you, Steve? Anything?
I don't know. Anime is so linked to manga that it never actually had an anime, but MXO. I was so bummed when that one came out.
Yeah. I remember that now. Jeez. Digging backwards. I put some thought into it, and, you know, as much as I would like to see a continuance of X-Men Evolution or Wolverine and the X-Men, both good shows I thought were cut off early. The one I keep coming back to that I would like to see a modern reboot is Visionaries.
Oh, God.
Whoa.
Yes.
I've never seen that show. I've only seen clips on YouTube.
It was a fun concept. It was a really interesting idea, but they stopped doing it, not because it wasn't popular, but because the toys were too expensive to produce.
So they couldn't get the marketing behind it.
Yeah. No, the marketing was there. Everybody was into it, but the toys...
They couldn't afford the...
They weren't drawing a profit off them. The holographs were too expensive to produce back in the day. So, that's me. But, next week we'll talk Aquaman. Thank you very much for coming. I am Jeremy.
I'm Steve.
Jesse.
And V.
Have a great day and enjoy another piece by Machine Supremacy. Peace out! I know, I'm a schmuck.